Welcome everyone to the games people play.
Looking for a redirect, but loose in front of the goal.
Does anything in particular stand out as the
One or two in zone for the touchdown.
This is Bernie Corbett saying, play the game well.
Welcome everyone to the games people play with Bernie Corbett. I remain Bernie Corbett, your host. Pleasure to have with us here today. Once again, I say every week a very special guest, but this man has a very unique distinction, which may be a good place to start. The only Heisman Trophy winner to play in the NBA, where he enjoyed a career mainly with the New York Knicks for about a decade. We have with us the 1993 Heisman Trophy winner, Charlie Ward, from Florida State, and with us here today. Charlie, welcome to the show. Great to have you with us, and sit back and enjoy the ride.
I appreciate you having me.
Well, Charlie, of course, as many may remember, but we're going to refresh your memory, arguably the most decorated player in college football history. In 1993, he swept all the awards, the Heisman Trophy, the Davey O'Brien Award for quarterback, and a number of others. Was called by one of Florida State's rivals and opponents, Coach Dennis Erickson at Miami, the greatest college quarterback I have ever seen. And on the other side of it, as we're going to talk about, Marty Blake, the late NBA scout, said that he was the best point guard in America coming out of college, and thus his career, a very unique career, college football star at Florida State, and then going on to his career in the NBA. All stories have a beginning, Charlie, and yours began in Thomasville, Georgia, your hometown. We like to have everybody on the program feel at home. If you notice, I have my Heisman Trophy sweatshirt on,
Nice.
which was a gift from a man I'm sure you remember from the Heisman Trophy in the Downtown Athletic Club, Rudy Risker. You remember Rudy?
Yes, Rudy.
Great man, Rudy Risker, and became a good friend of mine. I was working on a project with the Heisman Trophy back about 15 years ago, so I wear that with pride. And also, to really make you feel at home, we have a T-shirt, Thomasville, Georgia T-shirt. So that happens to be your hometown, although the library's not on there, and I believe the Heisman Trophy is in the library, but I notice there's a number of other buildings there, the gazebo, etc. So wanted to,
my hometown.
absolutely, your hometown, about 35 miles from the campus in Tallahassee and Florida State. Once again, all stories have a beginning. Yours in Thomasville, Georgia. Your dad, Charles Sr., was high school coach, was your high school coach, the basketball coach, also on the gridiron in football. And your dad and mom, unique background there also, Charlie. I believe both sides of the family, you had preachers on both sides of the family. So I guess from my research, it was maybe not as much old school. It was maybe Old Testament in terms of your upbringing.
I guess you could say that. We definitely grew up in a Christian household, and those were foundational times for me because I'm still a Christian and still learning as I continue to mature over my years. But my parents taught me a lot of great life lessons. They lived a lot of great life lessons as well for us. So, when it comes down to my beginnings, I had a very good foundation when it comes to work ethic, how to treat people, raising a family, staying married, tough times, sticking it out, those types of things. So, and they also taught me about humility, which has been, a foundational piece for me, and not, being high, not being low, but staying somewhere in the middle.
Absolutely. Even keel is the best. And not surprisingly, you sang in the choir as a young man. And also, sometimes you have people talk about their family story about an older brother that maybe brought them along and knocked them around a little bit. In your case, you had an older sister that toughened you up along the way.
Yes. My oldest sister, Lita, she's the one that roughed me up a little bit. We were 4 years apart, and she was, a lot taller, bigger than I was for most of the time. And then I kind of grew up, and that one point, there was no more of that happening because we all kind of matured. But it was good for me to have an older sister that was kind of tough.
Also, going back, you had a rather serious leg injury in high school that could have been obviously kind of a crossroads moment for you that you had to bring yourself back from. I'm sure you learned lessons of adversity and being able to turn the corner and be resilient and rise above.
Yes, I had a knee injury my freshman year, last game of my freshman year in basketball, and set me back really 8 months. 2 springs. That's rest of that spring, and then the following spring, I had another setback with the same knee. But it really taught me about the importance of being well-rounded. Because at that time, I was very interested in just being a sports guy, and that's really all I wanted to do. And God removed that from me to show me that there needs to be, some other things, because it can, sports can be taken away in a short amount of time. And so I had to learn to, make sure my academics were in order. Spiritually, I grew because of when we were always going through, we were going to always go through something. And we always have to, have a perspective that there's more to life than what you're going through, and persevering through the tough times, because once you overcome whatever it is you're going through, you have to continue to move forward. But you also have to learn through those experiences as well. And that's something that I did over those 8 months. I learned to know that people care. The relationships that were built over that time to encourage me through that. And, a lot of times we don't have empathy for people because sometimes we may not go through some of the similar situations that they may go through. However, we know what pain feels like and looks like because we've all gone through it. There's no one that's exempt from that deal. And, we can have compassion for people that are going through difficult times.
Indeed, the case. I as being around college sports, I broadcasted hockey and football for over 30 years. We talk about the season and the reason, and it sounds like you had more of an awareness of the reason to combine with the season. And once you got healthy, the seasons were quite favorable, quite auspicious at Thomas County Central High School. Once again, where your dad was involved coaching basketball and football. 2-time South Georgia champions. You were the quarterback of the year, and from all indications, you really revived a struggling program at the time, Charlie.
I'm sure if it was struggling, where it was, but we grew up in it, and my dad was a coach, and I was always around it. There were some tough years in the years that I was growing up around the football program and basketball programs there. And then I became a part of it. And we had some quality years, some quality wins. We didn't win we didn't win the championship, the state championship, but we had opportunities. My junior and senior year, we ended up losing in the semifinals, but those were great memories that we look back on now. Great times with our arch rival, Thomasville High, who I had some buddies who went on to play college ball and couple pro players. We also had a lot of pro players that came from my high school that went on to play professional football. So, Thomasville, I wasn't the only one that made it to the professional ranks as far as football or basketball is concerned, but I was part of the process because after I left, they ended up winning, I think, three state championships.
Wow.
After I left. And so, I didn't get a chance to do that, but they were able to do it.
And what I didn't realize until research as far as where Thomasville, once again, only about 35 miles from Florida State. Now the recruiting process begins. You're obviously a two-sport athletic star in both football and basketball. You had interest to play both sports. What about the recruiting process? Were you a Florida State fan growing up? And I just said, well, we might be a Georgia fan, but I didn't realize the proximity of Tallahassee and Thomasville. What was that whole process like in terms of recruiting?
Well, we got most of our games we watched, they were regional. And so we ended up watching a lot of Florida State games, basketball and football games. And, of course, being in Georgia, we got Georgia as well, and Georgia Tech. But the recruiting process, I wouldn't say I was a two-sport star when it came to recruiting, even though I did get a lot of some basketball mail as well as football mail. But when it's all said and done, I was really a football recruit, and I wanted to play basketball in college. And so, there were some schools that weren't really, they were interested, but they weren't really interested because I don't know if it was a style or what it may have been, but the last three schools that were interested, well, really four. Auburn at the end said that they start recruiting me. I'm not sure why, but they start recruiting me.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia Tech, I visited, but my buddy Sean Jones ended up choosing Georgia Tech. And so he's a quarterback, and I wasn't going to go to compete with him. And so that eliminated Georgia Tech. And then it came down to University of Georgia and Florida State. And when it was all said and done, Coach Bowden had allowed Brad Johnson to play basketball in college. And he was a man of integrity. And so he let me know that if I chose Florida State, that I could play basketball and football as well. But before all of that, I had to coach wasn't really sold on me. And so Coach McDuffie, Coach Mack, who's no longer with us, had to be an advocate for me and said that we need to give this guy a chance because they weren't sold because I wasn't their type of quarterback.
Right.
The style that they were running, apparently I wasn't that type of quarterback. And Coach Mack, I'm grateful for him because, he was like, he's a winner. and we need him to be here. And so I'm grateful for that. We always need an advocate for the things that you want to get accomplished. And I'm grateful that he was that for me.
Indeed. And you attended Tallahassee Community College. You didn't want to go in Prop 48, and you didn't. You did everything necessary that you had to do academically. Credit to you. And became, once again, the season and the reason, Charlie, full credit as an honor student graduate of Florida State. You're really model student and athlete as you went on to really embrace the full college experience, if you will, and had a great understanding of that after the time that you spent prior to actually attending in Tallahassee.
Yes, the gap year was a year that I had to learn. I was a younger high school graduate, so I was like 17 when I graduated.
Oh wow! Okay.
And if I was able to get into college, I would have gone. But the gap year was God's way of just sharing with me that I needed to mature a little bit more. And I used it to get prepared for college. I was kind of on my own, but I was staying with my sister and my cousin, my sister was attending Florida A&M University, and my cousin lived in Tallahassee. And so, I had some time where, I was kind of on my own out of my parents' house, and having to go to class, and I was working out with a buddy of mine that was from Thomasville, that was at Florida A&M. And so it was a year that I really didn't have to focus on football or any sport per se, but it was just a maturation process I had to go through, and I learned a lot, and I worked to get my SAT scores up so that I could enter the following year, and I was able to obtain my score to be able to get into college. And all I asked for is an opportunity, and that opportunity was provided, and I wanted to take advantage of it while I was there. So, I struggled the first few years in college, but once I got into my major, it was a lot easier.
Indeed, that's often the case. I can relate. A lot of people could relate to that. A lot of people that go through the college experience. You first got on the field at Florida State, and I didn't remember this going back and researching for the interview. You were the punter, and that was your first experience. You averaged 37.1 yards punting for Bobby Bowden when you first got on the field your first year you were eligible.
Yes. I was a punter and wasn't happy about punting.
Right.
Because, I was immature in my thoughts as a freshman because I didn't get recruited to be a punter. And I felt like I was losing a year doing something I didn't get recruited to do. But looking back, it was a great blessing in a lot of ways. One, I competed for the job. They didn't just hand it to me. I competed for the job and actually won it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see that blessing in the mix. And then I got a chance to travel, as opposed to possibly staying at home when they went on the road. So that was another great experience that I didn't see really relatively at the time. And then, my senior year, if I would have played basketball my true freshman year, then I wouldn't have been able to play basketball my senior year because my eligibility would have been up the year before. And so that would have definitely thrown a monkey wrench into my NBA option.
Yeah.
Because I would have been off a year from basketball, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity to, or the option to be able to play or get prepared for the NBA draft. And I would probably been an NFL, 100% commit if that was the case. So sometimes we don't know what God's plan is for our life during the time. And when it's all said and done, I look back over my life and see his hand and how he's orchestrating a lot of things. And I just had to, continue to work and follow, what was going on at the time and enjoy that moment.
You spent the next year really as an apprenticeship and a mentoring year. And then 1992, you become the starting quarterback. Your first two outings against Duke, over 353 all-purpose yards, factor in 5 touchdowns. Then against Clemson, over 300 yards of all-purpose and 2 touchdowns. On the other side of it, and this is where we can bring in a big influence, the offensive coordinator, Mark Richt, a little bit of trick or treat. 4 interceptions against Duke, 2 interceptions against Clemson. There was a few things to clean up, but at the same time, I guess there was probably at that time an awareness for Bobby Bowden and the coaching staff that they had a pretty special athlete here that maybe they could make some changes in the offense to accommodate.
Well, actually, I had 4 interceptions and I had 4 interceptions in the first game, 4 in the second game.
Oh, 4 in the second game. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 and 4, so it was 8. Okay.
I had 8 total in 2 games.
Okay.
But like you mentioned, I had maybe accounted for like 8 touchdowns, between passing and running.
Yep.
And
about 800 yards too.
And so, one of the things that I always go back to is when we talk about adversity and you have to believe that you can get the job done, when you're going through tough times. And, I never lost any doubt that I could actually get the job done. But there's always that hint of doubt when you're not playing well or not doing well. But the great thing about the first game, the game wasn't really close. Our defense was solid. They were solid my 2 years that I played. And so our defense was really, really key to, our success. When I was struggling, trying to find my way, they were keeping us in games. Well, the first game was a blowout, the Duke game. But the Clemson game on the road was a close game. Our defense kept us in it while I was throwing interceptions. I threw a pick six. And, of course, I had 3 more interceptions before that, or during the course of the game. And they kept the game close. But the one thing that I've always gone back to is when we had an opportunity to go down and score because we needed a score to win the game, and our defense kept the game close, we was able to manufacture a drive at the end of the game to win the game. And so when I sit back and evaluate and talk and think about, a quarterback or a person who has gone through some adverse situations, meaning a wide receiver that may have had the drops all game. He's been taken out, a few times because he's dropped a few, passes. But in the drive that they needed, he's made a circus catch. He's made a lot of plays on that drive to help them keep the drive alive and also win the game. Those are the type of players that you can believe in because that they're going to do, or they're going to give their best, or their best is going to come in a tough situation. And that's where people leave great legacies as well. And so, while I was doing that, yes, we were going through some deals, but it did change. And then we had the same situation where, Georgia Tech, we were down 17 points in the fourth quarter.
3 scores,
and we went to our no huddle, our 2-minute offense to get us back in it. And when we were down, 17 points in the fourth with like 5 minutes to go, we found ways to manufacture, offense, score. Of course, we needed an offside kick to get it, but the defense was solid, all night to keep us in the game. And so this is what I'm saying about, fighting adversity, but finding a way to make it happen. And that game really changed the trajectory of my career and also our team from an offensive standpoint to give us the confidence to know that we can actually get things done if we don't turn the football over, if we make good decisions.
That was a great comeback. You mentioned down 17, and you're able to navigate 2 80-yard drives, of which you accounted for every yard but one on those drives, onside kick, and eventual win. And certainly was a harbinger of things to come. In adapting, as you mentioned, the offense was geared differently when you got there. Now, a lot more comfort level, shotgun, spread offense. Bobby Bowden, I think, once again, a recognition, knew what he had, and really allowed you to find the holes to be able to run and to be able to throw. If you could really make the analogy, Charlie, he really made you a point guard at quarterback, which is something that you were on the basketball court.
Well, they definitely did change the offense that my junior year, and it ramped up even more after the Georgia Tech game.
Right. Oh, yeah.
We found that there may be a way that we can work it. And the good part about it was we were went no huddle, and we mixed the tempo. So that's something that we were able to keep defenses off guard. Very similar to what teams are doing today.
Sure.
They mix their tempos. And, very simple plays. But when you're playing fast or playing at a faster pace, then it simplifies the defense and it makes everything a lot easier for you. But once got to a point where I understood what we were going to be running and what we are going to be doing, and it made life a lot easier, moving forward.
Indeed. And also amazing when you look at the stats of the game against Maryland that year, a little bit later on. The offense that you were directed on offense, 850 yards in total offense. Just amazing with, once again, the prowess of your defense and now a prolific offense that developed over the course of your junior year. And then really set the stage for what would, for all indications, the expectations very high your senior year that this could be a very special year for Florida State football, maybe to be able to climb heights that they had never climbed in terms of the possibility of being in the discussion for the national championship. And the team began the season on a roll and rolled all the way to what became known as, well, there's been a few of them in the last century. It was one of those games of the century, and the game of the century in South Bend, Indiana, Florida State and Notre Dame. And as you think back to that game, and one of the really classic college football games of all time, Charlie, and I happen to have you probably remember the T-shirt from that game. So a friend of mine actually designed that T-shirt in South Bend, and I still have the T-shirt. And one of the games for the all-time classics of college football. As you remember that game, you remember what surrounded that game going in. Your thoughts looking back from really a unique experience for any college football player to have played in a game that, well, is talked about now almost 30 years later and will probably be talked about 100 years from now.
Well, it's definitely a game that was well talked about. It was on NBC. It was like the game of the century at the time, as you mentioned. And we had played in a lot of big games even before that. But, being able to go to South Bend, we had never been there. I know we had the green hats, the Seminole hats. It was
That's
like
right.
our Lucky Green deal that they gave us. And, it was something that we were looking to embrace. It was a challenge for us playing on the road. I think I'm not sure if they were one or they were two at the time.
It was 1 and 2. Yep,
yeah.
1 against 2.
So we knew it was going to be a tough game. But when you're a competitive team, being the number one team in the country, it doesn't matter where you go, you're expecting to win the game. And that's something that, we were expecting to win the football game. And if we didn't win, it was going to be competitive at least. That's just the way top-tier teams compete and play on the road, at home. It doesn't really matter. So it was interesting because it was we were preparing for it to snow and those type of things because it was in November or somewhere around there that time where it's supposed to snow. Well, we get a 60 degree day. And that was great for us. But the thing that was tricky was they let the grass grow and they wet it. They wet the grass. And so that was something that we had to navigate through for a whole quarter. And then the wind started blowing in our face. And we had really one bad quarter, which was the second quarter.
Right.
And that doomed us when it came down to them getting a little bit of separation. We were able to make up the ground a little bit, to cut it to 7 with the ball in our hands, and weren't able to manufacture a drive. We put a drive together to score to get it close. Then we got another stop, and then we had to drive again. And we had the last, all you can ask for is a chance. And we had a chance to, score and then kick the extra point to tie it up. but I wasn't able to get the completion that I needed, and for the touchdown. So we ended up losing the game. And, it was, like I said, it's a competitive game, and we had the ball last to be able to make it a different outcome. But it just wasn't meant for us. And that time definitely helped us. I think we were already focused. It just brought a little bit more focus to what we wanted to do. And it was a tough loss, but I was grateful that we were able to, stay close in the top 5. I think we got moved down to 3 after the loss. And then Notre Dame ended up the next week,
Right.
losing
That's
to
right.
Boston College
Yes.
on a field goal. And so that is how we were able to navigate our way through back to the top, because they ended up losing to Boston College. I don't know if they were ranked or not, but but that was like great for us. Bad for Notre Dame, but great for us. And so that was the Notre Dame experience. It was a great one.
It certainly was. Both teams, once again, 1 versus 2. Both teams had won 16 in a row. 24 NFL draft picks on the field in that game. If you wonder about the talent level, it was also Game Day's debut, Charlie. If you remember, the first time Game Day ever went on the road brought their show on the road, which has obviously become a tradition now for almost 30 years. But you did get an opportunity because, as you mentioned, what happened in Notre Dame the following week, and you were able to take care of business the rest of the way. You mentioned about how tough your schedule was, and of course, the Notre Dame game of the century. But truth be told, Charlie, you played 7 games that season with your Florida State team against top 10 teams. That's an unbelievable gauntlet to run for any college football team.
Well, I'm not sure who else. I know Miami, Florida,
Yep.
Notre Dame. I'm not sure who else was ranked. North Carolina may have been ranked.
At the time you played them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was what it was, and when you have a solid team, and I said it doesn't matter, but you feel comfortable, playing ranked teams, unranked teams. It didn't really matter. But we had a very good team.
And it got you to a point where, once again, by taking care of your own business and your own schedule, to be in a position to win the national championship, to climb new heights for the Florida State program and Bobby Bowden. And that, of course, takes us to the Orange Bowl, traditional power Nebraska team that really at that time had been dominant all the way back to Bob Devaney and to the 70s. Traditional annual team competing for the national championship. You got another opportunity. You made the most of it in terms of climbing to that national championship. Your thoughts as you look back to that Orange Bowl, which certainly was a little bit of a roller coaster ride in itself. That was certainly a tight one all the way to the end again.
Yes, it was. And we were kind of expecting that because the year before we beat them pretty good, 27-14. Wasn't as close, but it was a solid win for us in the Orange Bowl. And everyone's kind of expecting that same type of game. We weren't really expecting that type of game because it was a championship game. And so it was a roller coaster ride for us offensively. And I know, as I talked about, earlier, our defense was solid my 2 years that I played. They were solid, all the years, but my 2 years that I played, they were really solid. And they kept us in the game. Offensively, we were able to move the football. We didn't really turn it over, which helped. We were able to move the football. We weren't able to score. So we ended up kicking field goals when we missed opportunities to score touchdowns, which, kept us, moving, kept points on the board. So Scott Bentley was very instrumental. He's a true freshman that year. And he's very instrumental in us, just moving forward, keeping points on the board when we were struggling to score touchdowns. And our defense kept us in the game. And then, lo and behold, we get another drive late in the game.
Yep.
And as I
Opportunity.
talked about, legacies are made, in crunch time. And we put together a drive. And, we had been preparing for that moment all season. In the wins, we executed a high level when we needed to. On the loss, we had an opportunity to execute, and we scored. And we didn't score on the last one against Notre Dame. Florida game, same type situation where we were up the entire game, and then they made a great comeback to cut it to like five points with like 4 minutes or so to go in the fourth quarter, and we needed one drive to kind of seal and put the game away, and we were able to get that. The throw that I hit Ward done for a 70+ yard touchdown.
Yep, 79 yards. Yep.
All those moments that we had throughout the year, and then we had some great 2-minute drives in practice against our own defense that were, sometimes it was success, sometimes it weren't. But all those moments that we had came down to that one drive that we had in the Orange Bowl against Nebraska, and we had to put it together. And when you have playmakers, on the field, they have to step up and make plays in the big time and the big moments. If you're trying to leave a legacy, if you're trying to win a championship, if you're trying to win a game, those things have to happen. And we were blessed to be able to have all of those things in front of us. And guys stepped up and made plays, whenever we needed it. And then we ended up getting the game-winning field goal from Scott Bentley because we were able to, go down, and I think it was maybe 65 yard drive or whatever it was to get us in field goal range to get the game-winning field goal.
And once again, you all those experiences to draw on. The comeback that just fell short, literally just fell short. You 3 seconds left against Notre Dame, all the way down, drove them all the way down to the 14-yard line with a chance to tie it. The Florida game, the 79-yard, that was on 3rd and 10, by the way, crunch time with 5:41 left, the 79-yard pass to Warwick done. But it all came together to put Florida State and Bobby Bowden in a position, heights that they had never climbed to a national championship in 1993. You mentioned Warwick Dunn, special relationship with you and Warwick Dunn. Just to give us a perspective on that, it's quite a story with him coming in as a freshman, you a fifth-year senior, and you really almost adopted Warwick Dunn. You really, as he's talked about, really became an older brother to him, even more so than a teammate.
Well, I'm not sure about adoption. I guess we all are we adopt our friends and brothers and those type of things. But Warwick and I, go back to a guy by the name of Doug Williams.
Yes, New Jersey. Yep.
So Doug's one of my heroes when it came to playing the quarterback position, African American.
Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl champion. And I got a chance to meet him. He came to one of our games my junior year and got an opportunity to talk with him. And he asked me to make sure I took care of Warwick because he knew his mom. And so I wanted to, make sure that I took care of Warwick and the best way that I could. And so we ended up becoming roommates, which was, I didn't have a roommate at the time. So it was a no-brainer for me. And also, my true freshman year, I had a senior roommate. He taught me some things that I probably didn't want to be taught, but nonetheless, there's some positives and some negatives there. But there's leadership, that mentorship type of vibe. And so that's something that I ended up doing with Warwick as well. Just him being able to see me go through my senior year and him becoming the type of player over the course of his career. He was able to draw on some of my experiences from handling the press, the handling fans, being in the community, the production on the field, all those things he was able to glean from. But more importantly, our relationship off the field was very special for us to be able, for him to go to my hometown and hang out with my family, and me vice versa, go to his hometown and hang out with his family. We got a chance to learn one another's culture and, upbringing, and be able to support one another in those areas as well.
And of course, Warwick had come to Florida State. A great tragedy with his mom being killed in the line of duty as a policewoman in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he was from. So just a remarkable story. Real credit to you, Charlie, to be able to really do, and not surprisingly do, as you talk about the Christian thing in terms of your relationship with Warwick Dunn and what that meant to his development.
Yes. I think that's what God would have us to do, and He's done for us when it comes to adoption. And I do believe that we have been called to be able to help those in need, and also those that may not be in need. We have to help everyone when it comes to the support that they may need at that time, because we're all, regardless of how much we have, there will be a time when you will be in need, even though you may have everything that you think you may need, but we all need someone there to help encourage us. And
you were certainly there for your teammate Warwick Dunn. And the year in terms of storybook season, the national championship. Prior to that, in December, you had the opportunity to, you talk about God working in mysterious ways. You had an opportunity to go to New York City for the first time to accept the Heisman Trophy from the great tradition of the Downtown Athletic Club. My sources and my research tell me you weren't exactly impressed with New York City when your first impressions of New York City when you came in for the Heisman Trophy. It's funny how God worked in that particular capacity, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, that was my first time going to New York City. We had just played in New Jersey.
That's the Meadowlands. Yep.
And Meadowlands, my senior year football. And I missed the chance when they went to New York to play I think it was a Christmas tournament or something, a preseason tournament. In basketball, I was still playing football at that time. And so I really hadn't been in New York City. And so that was a great experience, not just for myself, but for my family that was able to attend. And, also the Heisman experience, get an opportunity to see the former Heisman winners that you watched play, in college and then some professionally. And just that whole experience is Downtown Athletic Club, and then touring New York City. It was just, and coming from Thomasville, that was a big deal as well, because it's definitely not the same. The people to me were rude. They were driving fast. It was just a lot of things. And then
traffic.
Traffic. And then what you've heard on the news about, people, watching your wallet and make sure you have, all the different things that you need, because people may steal, people may take advantage of you, and, all those things. And so, it was just different. But as I left, I was like, man, there's no way I could ever live in New York. When I was leaving, I was grateful for, winning the Heisman and those types of things, but I was like, there's no way I could ever live in New York. And lo and behold, 5 months or 6 months later, whatever time frame was, I was called to live in New York. So I was grateful for that, because that's what my first job was, professional job. And so I was grateful for it. And believe it or not, I was able to find a way to live in New York and enjoy
Adapted.
it.
Yep, able to adapt to that. The man from the small town, a long way from Thomasville, it worked out well, and it just such a unique athletic resume for you. You played on some of the best Florida State basketball teams to that point under Coach Pat Kennedy. Bobby Bowden was obviously a big influence on you, but Coach Kennedy really allowed you to maintain the schedule from football to basketball, and some great moments. You look back to your basketball career, game-winning shot in the Metro Conference tournament against Louisville, a Sweet 16, 1992, 1993, the Southeast Regional, all the way to the Southeast Regional with a team that was 25-10, and really played on a really outstanding Florida State basketball team. Truth be told, 4 NBA first rounders with Bob Sura, Doug Edwards, and Sam Cassell all on that team. That was a really special team. As you think back to that Florida State basketball experience, Charlie, is there any one moment, one shining moment, or one signature moment for you that stands out about your time on the court for Coach Kennedy?
Well, there are a lot of good moments that we were able to have. Of course, making it to the Elite Eight was a great moment. We knew we were up against a juggernaut in Kentucky, but there was a great time for us as a program because we hadn't been that far at that time since like 1972 or whatever it was when we went to the Final Four or 74, somewhere around there. And so that was, it was just a great moment for the program. We did have some talent on that team. But I have to go back because, people ask the question a lot of times about, how were you able to, play basketball for 4 years? Why didn't you give up one sport over other? How did you choose and those type of things? A lot of times, the guys who are football players who go and play basketball, most times they come after their football season. And
Yes.
They may not get an opportunity to play as much as they would like. And so they're making the decision that I'm not getting an opportunity to play a lot. So I can be lifting weights or running or whatever it is to perfect my football craft, as opposed to wasting my time, this a bit amount of time to be able to play a few games here and there where I'm really not, in the rotation. For me, the year that Coach Bowden allowed me to go and play basketball full time, which is my second year in college, that was very instrumental. That was the year I was able to get a full year, kind of make my mark on, what I was going to be or how I was going to have an impact on the basketball program. And that's the year that I ended up making the game-winning shot against Louisville in the comeback in the Metro championship game. And that kind of shared with the coaching staff, with the players, that this is the type of player I am. And so whenever my time came for me to play basketball after football season was over, I had already established what type of player I was capable of being. And so I was instantly in the rotation once I got back. And so that is one of the fundamental differences that I was able to have as opposed to those who try to play basketball or play football year round and then go and play basketball after football season. So that was a key moment for me. And then, having great teams over the course of the 3 years. And then the fourth year, we know we were going to struggle. Had some young players, but I was one of the senior leaders. But we were able to win some games that year as well. Not as many, but we won a couple.
Not as many as the once again 22-10 and 25-10 the two previous years. There's also one other basketball game I got to mention. I went back and looked at the tape, and when you think of the program and the tradition of the program, the players that have come out of the program, Coach K, and what has been built. Florida State team that beat Duke for the very first time ever. That had to be a pretty special moment for you when you looked at the talent on the court that and what Duke did year in and year out. But you were part of that also, major part of that.
Yes, that was a great game for us. We were able to get it done. We hadn't beat Duke ever. I don't think.
That's right, first time.
So, that was a great win for us. Kind of helping us to understand that we are there and we belong. I know we had beat North Carolina my junior or the first year we were in the ACC, and so just to be able to beat North Carolina, beat Duke, some of the home run hitters that were in ACC, still in ACC, and they were basketball schools. Football wise, I mean, we knew we were one of the top tier teams. But basketball-wise, we had to try to go in and make our way because the ACC, of course, is well known for basketball programs. And so for us to kind of go in and beat North Carolina at North Carolina and then have this win against Duke, over the course of, years or what have you, that was kind of like us kind of making our way through and saying that we are a basketball school as well.
Indeed, really put Florida State on the map. And you finished your career number 1 in steals all time in a career, number 6 in assists, and established your mark in basketball. Now it was a time different from the recruiting process of coming out of high school. Now it's a question of professional career and decision-making. You put it out there that if you were not going to be a first-round NFL pick, that you would more than likely opt for basketball and the NBA. And as it turns out, you were an NBA first-round pick, the 26th pick overall by the New York Knicks. As you think back, Charlie, to the decision at the time between basketball and football, were you pretty much in a position where you would have been content to go in either direction because of your love and the commitment that you had to both the sports at the time?
Well, I did. That's the reason why I left my options open.
Right.
I wasn't 100% committed to the NFL process. So, because I had chosen to play basketball my senior year. And so that I knew that once I made that choice, that the option of me potentially being a NFL draft pick could have ended the way that it did end, which me not getting drafted.
Right.
And so I did go through some of the processes of the NFL, draft, the pro day on campus. I did go back to the second combine where the doctors were there because I had a shoulder injury and a knee injury that they had, to look over. I didn't get a chance to go on a tour of, the different organizations, but I did have a couple meetings after my pro day. I did have a second workout with a few teams after my pro day. They wanted to see some more, just a little bit more. So I did go out and throw out, with them the next day. And then I did get a call in the 5th round from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right, the Chiefs drafted you. Yep.
And, they wanted me to be the backup for Joe Montana at the time.
Right.
Who was another guy that I enjoyed watching or saw myself being like, as far as some of the attributes that they brought to the table. And I didn't get drafted. That was just part of it. But God, my prayer was, please open the door and close the door. And he completely closed the NFL door because I didn't get drafted. Of course, I could have gone, a free agent route, but after I didn't get drafted, I put more of my time into preparing for the NBA process. So, I got an opportunity to go on the Nike 4-country tour, basketball, playing Coach Calipari and Todd Bozeman were the coaches. And after that, when I came back, before that, I got an opportunity to play in the NABC All-Star Game with Coach Big House Gaines, who's no longer with us, who passed away.
Oh, yeah.
And he was my coach, and I ended up winning the MVP of the, I was the only football player, go figure. But, I went through that whole process with, organizations, and lo and behold, I was grateful that, I had an advocate, my coach, who's no longer with us, Coach Edman Williamson. He took the time to help develop me my skill level. Right after my basketball career ended, he put me on a program because he knew what I needed. He was also my advocate for talking to general managers and coaches and anyone that wanted to talk to me about, what I was doing and my development. He was the guy. And so I was grateful for him, helping me out.
And you're listed at about 6'2" accurate from coming out of college as far as your overall height?
No, I'm roughly around 26 feet, 6'1".
Okay. I was going to say, we credit that to the sports information department that you were listed as 6'2". Exactly. That's what I thought, but you just, you confirmed that. And of course,
I'm 6'2" with my cleats on.
And with the cleats, exactly. With the cleats on. Absolutely. There you go. As far as coming out at the time, they talked about, you're going back and looking at some of the NFL scouting, a whole different landscape now at the position, the way the position is played, and with the number of black quarterbacks in the NFL. At the time, Randall Cunningham and Warren Moon. You wore 17 for Doug Williams, who was your idol just before that time. But as you watch the NFL now, and they talked about things, well, he might not be able to see the field and so forth. When you look at the NFL now, Charlie, you put the TV on a Sunday and you see Mahomes, Jackson, Prescott, Watson, Winston, Newton, and the guy I think that you remind me the most of is Kyler Murray, maybe. What does that say to you years later in terms of the way that the game has changed and the way that the offensive systems of the game have changed overall? I'm sure that it's something that you probably reflect and you probably think about if you follow the NFL at all.
Well, Russell Wilson is another guy.
Oh, I forgot about Russell Wilson, who's probably the MVP of the league, and everybody always forgets about him. Sorry about that. Sorry, Russell.
Yeah, he's to me, he's the guy that I would say I would be more like. Or,
yes. Yep.
Kind of comparable to. But I'm happy for I don't think it's just a black issue or a black thing. I'm grateful for us being able to have more at that position now because it's the work that they put in and the development that they've had early on and just the opportunities that they've been able to take advantage of. And of course, the NFL has kind of changed their thought process as well because now you have the last first-round picks, last two first-round picks have been, quarterbacks that have been 6'1", at best.
Right.
And they both come from, pass-happy, shotgun style type teams.
Spread. Yep.
Spread. So
RPO. Yep.
I think a lot of it has changed over the course of, now just seeing and the styles have changed. I know when I was coming out, it was really one style of playing. And it was, you had to be a drop back passer underneath the center, play action, all those types of things you had to do. And being in the shotgun was like only on certain downs that you did it, and very predictable. But now you see teams that some underneath the center, some not. They're in the shotgun sometimes they're not. And so I just think it's a mixture now. And you don't have to be a certain size, because I know when I was coming out, you had to be 6'3", 225, or you had to be a big guy, because now they're saying you need to see over the line and you can't see if you're short, and, all those types of things. Well, we have guys today, and I always said, I don't care how tall you are, it's hard to throw through people. And
No matter what.
Everyone has to find passing lanes. I mean, it may be a little easier if you're 6'5" to find some passing lanes, but everybody got to find passing lanes. And if you can't find them, you're going to get balls knocked down and all those types of things. And so I'm just happy to see the young guys, the younger guys who are smaller, really the smaller guys, find a way to be effective in their role as a quarterback, and put the complete myth that small guys can't, get it done.
Absolutely. Not all about measurables. And it's really a situation, as we've both discussed here, that it's not as much that the athletic quarterbacks, and a number of them being black quarterbacks that are adept at running and passing, it's not as much they've come to the game, Charlie. The game has come to them in terms of their ability to play the game at a high level.
That is true.
Mm-hmm. And, the NBA beckoned as a first-round pick, and you end up in New York as a rookie, played somewhat sparingly as a guy that was touted as the point guard of the future. You had a mentor there, the guy that was playing the position. Your relationship with Derek Harper that I know had a great impact on you.
Yes. Derek was a guy that was playing the same position as me. We were point guards, and he was a veteran. I mean, like late vet. He maybe 15 years in at that time. I don't know what it was, but he was older. But he was in great shape, and so I was like, and he had a family, and I wanted to. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to play. Have longevity. Very professional about it. Have longevity. And be a family man as well. And so I asked him, if I could hang out with him, hang around him. We went to some appearances together in the community. He invited me to come over to his house to have dinner. His wife Sheila, at the time, would cook for me. And I got an opportunity to see his family, how he interacted with his kids. And all those things were very important to, just me being able to last as long as I was able to last, because I had a mentor like him. And he taught me a lot on the floor as well, in practices, the way he played the game, the work part, film, all those things. He taught me a lot about the game, about life, and I'm grateful for him, for sure.
Indeed. When you first came to the Knicks, Pat Riley was the head coach, but only briefly your first year. And the guy that took over, I guess, a testament to how you treat people, whatever position, you never know. You got to be very close with Jeff Van Gundy as an assistant, working with you. And, you turn around and Jeff Van Gundy is elevated as the head coach, which certainly strengthened your position, I would expect, because of your strong relationship that you'd established with Jeff.
I was definitely one of the reasons why I was given the opportunity to, compete or be a part of the rotation, because he had worked with me for a year and a half, skill development. He put a lot of time into, my development. And he also saw me in practice during the course of those times as well, and the competitive, spirit and the things that I brought to the team. And I showed up to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
That was another key component was, he had trust in me that I was going to do the right thing. And that's when I go out and share and talk, speak, I let people know you never know who's watching you. And you need to make sure that if you're working with someone, you never know what their status is going to be later on.
Mm-hmm.
They may be able to elevate you to a place where you want to go. But if you're not treating people with respect, you're not showing up on time, you're not being a good teammate, and then that person that whoever your boss is, they get elevated to, a higher status where they may be able to move you up. You may not get that position just because of the way you've handled that whole situation. And so that's why I'm a big believer that, you put the time in and the work. And when it's God's time for you to move to a higher position, you've prepared yourself for it. But a lot of times we just go through the motions, and if an opportunity comes up, we're not ready for it because we've gone through the motions. We hadn't put all of our stock into being the best we can be at that time, and we've all been in that position. I'm not saying
Right.
We've all been in a position where we kind of just passed our time, and an opportunity we missed because we had just passed our time. And we've all been in that situation at some point in time. But we've also had to learn from that situation as well. So I was grateful that, he gave me an opportunity. And just like anything else, when someone gives you an opportunity, that's what it is. It is an opportunity, but that doesn't mean that that's something you're going to be granted just because you got the opportunity. You have to take advantage of it, make your mark, do the best you can, play your role, and then live the results.
And Jeff gave you an opportunity, became a fan favorite, became a hit on Broadway at the world's most famous arena, the Mecca of basketball at Madison Square Garden. Your reputation as hardworking and unselfish, very good three-point shooter, very reliable as a floor leader, as the point guard, and being able to distribute the ball, and played on some Knick teams that certainly had an impact on basketball crazy New York. Just the couple of games in your career that I ask you about. 1997, Games 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Well, one sport that you were never involved in was pro wrestling, Charlie, to my knowledge. But that game, I guess, bordered on something out of the WWF there, and unfortunately went a long way to taking the Knicks out of that series, and beginning of a rivalry with Miami, which became one of the signature rivalries of that era in the NBA. The Knicks and the Heat. There was always a lot of heat when the Knicks and the Heat played. They didn't like each other.
We had the same mindset because of the coaches.
With Pat Riley.
Coach Riley was in, at Miami now, and then of course, Coach Van Gundy was underneath him in New York, and so we really ran the same sets. We had a lot of the similar mindsets when it came down to the players, and so as we know, if you're in a marriage or you've seen marriages or they in a kind of relationship, they've always said opposites attract, and there's a reason why they're opposites attract, because when you have two people who think the same and act the same, you always get confrontation.
Right.
Because there's, there has to be an opposite. So for us, that's what you got. you got confrontation all the time for the most part, but they're very competitive games. But we had confrontation all the time, and I just happened to be a part of one of those with another guy that was very similar to me. We were mild-mannered, quiet type guys, but we got caught up in a competitive rivalry. And one thing led to another, but it was all a great learning experience. And even to this day, it's a great learning experience that I share with my players that I coach, also my kids, on the importance of living with the consequence.
Right.
It wasn't
Affected the
something
series.
it wasn't something that I planned on doing or being a part of, but it had a big effect on, that game. Well, not really that game. The game's kind of out anyway. But the next two games, because I was suspended and some of my teammates were suspended the next
Patrick.
two games, because of them leaving the bench and coming to my aid, and so we were down a few guys, and that played a big part in the outcome of the series, which I was a part of, having an effect, not the positive but the negative. But it was a great learning experience. I know moving forward, I was in no more altercations, no matter what the situation was. But it was good though.
Lesson. Well, yeah, but absolutely. Lesson learned there. That was in 1999, the Cinderella Knicks, the number 8 seed. People are talking about the Heat, the number 5 seed in the NBA Finals, and all the way to losing to that great beginning San Antonio with one of the most underrated dynasties in any sport with what they had with Tim Duncan and David Robinson, but did get to the finals in 99. And then just one game, the 2000 Eastern Conference semifinal, Charlie, is one that you probably, when you close your eyes, you might think about. You had your career playoff high with 20 points and amazing down the stretch. You were the only Knick to score in the last 4.5 minutes of the game. Jumpers, layups, three-pointers, and not many people have the experience of hearing 20,000 crazed New Yorkers chanting their name, but you had that night, and I'm sure that might cross your mind from time to time. What a great moment.
Yes, it was. It was one of the highlights of my career. It was something that was not expected, definitely out of the blue, but grateful that my teammates allowed me to go on that run, which never happened again. And but it was a day that I was most proud of because it was my first day our oldest son was able to attend. It was like his first game.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was born that year in February. And so he was a couple months old, and that was Mother's Day as well.
Boy,
so there are a lot of great factors, a lot of great memories surrounding that outburst in the fourth quarter. But I do believe we were able to win the game, which was more important. But I was grateful that I had an opportunity to, be a part of. I was a part of all the wins, but definitely have make an impact on the win.
Indeed, the case. You mentioned your wife, Tonya, and that was your son, Caleb, your oldest son?
Yes.
Your three children, Caleb and Hope and Joshua. Later, traded to Phoenix, and your career, some injuries after you signed with the Houston Rockets. Spent some time coaching, a couple of years as an assistant with the Rockets. And now, over the last 15 years, Charlie, you're certainly making an impact in the community, in society. And as we've had an opportunity for you to tell your story here to that point, not surprising, you've also had adversity to overcome recently with your stroke from going back to 2018 and your recovery from that, and made you even more of an activist now. And now you've expanded to a number of areas with your motivational speaking and your foundation and all the things that you're active with today, including coaching.
Yes. Well, I had a stroke, like I say, 2018. I was on a mission trip, believe it or not, in Mexico at the time. And, it was definitely God's hand again on my life when it came down to, having all the necessary pieces in place to be able to get me the help and assistance that I needed at that time. My wife, Tanja, was there on the mission trip with me. The year before, I had been on this mission trip before, but the year before she wasn't there. I was there with my son and one of our quarterback, the quarterback of my football team at the time, and a nephew. We were on that trip. And then the next year, my wife and our daughter came back. Hope
Hmm.
came with me that year, and this is the year that I ended up having the mini stroke over there, and so I was grateful because when it was all said and done, I needed to get back to San Diego to get to the hospital there, and if Tanja wasn't there, I would have probably more than likely been by myself.
Ooh, wow.
Trying to navigate my way through,
Hmm.
which I'm sure we'd have probably been able to navigate, but her being there was a great blessing because she was able to talk to one of our actually our pastor now,
Hmm.
who's our team doctor at Florida State, and he kind of helped us navigate our way through. Actually had a nurse who was the head cook on the mission trip from the States. And so he happened to be there and he helped assist as well. And it was a time where, just unsure, but, after going through that experience and seeing all the different factors, and I'm grateful that I'm still here to be able to tell my story. Just the different factors that go into, health and wellness. I was a health nut in a sense at that, even before that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some factors I do believe that went into leading to the mini stroke. One being stress. I just relieved from a stressful situation, job. Not relieved. Well, I left and took on another job where I'm currently coaching now.
Right.
But during that time, I went through a lot of stress. We weren't winning, which was one. That was probably personal stress I put on myself. But then two, having to work through navigate through some tough waters with coworkers that led to probably more stress. And then, as we know, stress leads to poor eating habits.
Yep.
And at that time, I wasn't exercising at all. And so there are a lot of things that led to, I do believe, that the stroke happening. And then there are a lot of things that there's some things that I needed to identify. Once I did have the stroke, I found out that I had a small hole in one of my arteries in my heart.
Oh, wow.
From birth that didn't close up. And so I had to end up going and having like a small procedure to be able to help that process, because they never found out why I ended up having how the stroke got to my brain. And so that's a lot of things. But now, I'm definitely big into doing exercise more, ride bike or walk, and more healthy living. Living meaning eating from the earth, plant-based diet, and doing everything I can from the internal perspective to be able to help me have a cleaner bill of health. And so those are, things that I'm sharing with my basketball team, with people who are going through this virus, just encouraging them, to make sure that they're doing all necessary things to be able to help them get through. Of course, going to the doctor and finding all, getting the diagnosis and those types of things. But God has made our body to be able to heal itself.
Yes.
And when He has made it to heal itself, then we need to make sure that we're doing everything that we're putting in it, some of the things that He's created. And I know one of the things is, plants.
Plant-based. Yep.
Plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way to be able to cleanse the body, to get it to a point where it can start to heal itself. And then you can add whatever it is that you need to add. But I'm just a living testimony now that, we have to do all that we can to make sure that we're preparing our bodies to be as healthy as possible.
Indeed. And once again, you're able to convey that message. You're active motivationally speaking, coaching, and also you're just to give a little bit of a synopsis. The award. I mentioned your foundation, the Award Foundation, and what that means to you, and what you're able to bring to the community through your foundation, and what that provides.
Well, actually, the Award Foundation is an older foundation we had. Right now, it's the Charlie and Tanja Ward Family Foundation.
Family, okay.
That's the newest one, but they have the same purpose. We've added actually our daughter. She does a holiday notes where she encourages the elderly population through music, and she gets the community involved by having school-aged kids or friends or neighbors, whomever it may be, write holiday notes for those that she's sharing her mission or her ministry with through music. So she's done the VA hospital. She's done some assisted living hospitals where she goes in on holidays and plays music for them. I know we've done Christmas carols at assisted living facility, and we hand out notes during that time from people who've written letters to them during the holidays, and I know now we're doing a fundraiser. She's doing a fundraiser for I-9 Sports, for families who may not be able to afford I-9 Sports, their child to participate. And so she's raising money to work to be able to help a family, and also members. She's a part of an orchestra, Javassier. There's another, there's some kids who aren't able to afford it, parents who aren't able to afford the opportunity to be in the orchestra or get lessons or whatever the case may be. She's working to try to do that. So we support her and holiday notes, and we join forces with some of the hurricane relief effort.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
Through our foundation as well, and support, I know we supported our basketball program in our Thanksgiving, which is our FSU Cares Classic, where we actually donate money to the teams that participate, because we know basketball programs can, they definitely could use some of the resources.
Need the help.
All the gate money goes to, we join forces with the FSU Cares, which is whatever project they have that they're a part of. The money goes towards that organization, which is at our school. So that's something that we work to do and be a part of as a foundation as well.
Indeed. And if you want to get more information, we remind everybody you can go to Charlie's website about anything relative to his motivational speaking, his mentoring, children's book that he did, also the book The Athlete, that about his career, Greatness, Grace, and an Unprecedented Life. Truly an unprecedented life. I've had behind me Doak Campbell Stadium. Bobby built it. Charlie ran around and threw and made it even more special to bring Florida State to that national championship and that magical Heisman Trophy season in 1993. Charlie, thanks very much. Really enjoyed the time today. It was a pleasure celebrating your unique athletic life and beyond, to your philanthropy and community service, your mentoring and your coaching. And I'm going to wish you an early happy birthday because, as I tell everybody, I'm in my very late 50s. You're in your very late 40s, so we both got signature. I'll leave it at that. We both got signature birthdays coming up in about 10 days. So happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday to you as well. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Charlie Ward, our guest, and we really appreciate his time here joining us on the games people play here today. Thank you to my executive producer, Andy Bernstein. to the boys out in Seattle with Todd and Kiwan and everybody that makes the Games People Play possible. I'm Bernie Corbett. Once again, Charlie played very well with us today, and we remind everybody in the Games People Play the game well.